Beautiful double-hung windows, $259 installed. Compare at $600.
Good morning, America. Cover-up crisis. Grisly new details about the likely murder of that Washington Post writer as the paper publishes his final column overnight. His chilling message written just before he disappeared, and what his closest friend is telling ABC News about the barbaric way he was killed. As President Trump denies he's protecting Saudi Arabia and asks for any recordings that may exist to be turned over.
Deadly flooding alert. Rescue crews pulling people from their homes and cars trapped by raging rapids as waters rise in Texas. While the Midwest and Northeast brace for a big chill, the coldest temperatures of the season moving in.
Urgent warning about those mysterious explosions rocking a town. Authorities arresting this couple, now warning there could be more homemade bombs scattered around, just waiting to explode.
Our exclusive interview with the 13-year-old who survived being bitten by a great white, now returning to school. What he told his classmates about the moment he was attacked, and the first thing he told his mom.
Saying goodbye to Big Bird, the man behind one of the most famous characters on Sesame Street, hanging up his feathers after nearly 50 years. How he's saying farewell to millions of fans this morning.
The Astro fans that may have cost their team a trip to the World Series with this play. The possible home run ruined. The Red Sox walking away with the win. Why so many are outraged this morning.
Live in Times Square, this is GMA with Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, and Michael Strahan.
Good morning, America. Okay, Michael, you have to stand in for all Astros fans. Can you forgive your fellow fans?
Well, let's see that play again. Let's see that play again. Oh, man, I know you want a souvenir, Robin. This has been bugging you all morning.
I mean, come on, is a souvenir worth that costing possibly your team? I mean, they lost by 2. That was a 2-run home run. Just saying.
Well, a lot of unhappy Astros fans, me being one of them this morning. But, hey, it is what it is. Hopefully they can win the next 3.
Hopefully so. We'll have more on that coming up. But first, we begin with the latest on that deepening crisis over the missing Washington Post columnist apparently murdered inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. His final op-ed published overnight as we learn new details about what may have happened. ABC's Ian Pannell is there in Istanbul with the latest. Good morning, Ian.
Yeah, Robin, good morning. What the Arab world needs most is free expression. That's the prescient, haunting title to an editorial by Jamal Khashoggi, published this morning in the Washington Post, 16 after going through that door behind me. One of his closest friends now speaking to ABC in his first sit-down interview with US media, revealing details from Turkish security about what happened to his friend.
As the world searches for answers into the disappearance of Jamal Khashoggi, what looks like his final work published overnight in the Washington Post. His editors saying they'd held off publishing because we hoped Jamal would come back to us so that he and I could edit it together. Now I have to accept this is not going to happen. In it, Khashoggi urges readers to understand the need for freedom of expression in the Middle East. The Arab world facing its own version of an Iron Curtain, imposed not by external actors, but through domestic forces vying for power. And he remains highly critical of Arab governments as intolerant of criticism. Arab governments have been given free rein to continue silencing the media at an increasing rate. Chilling words seemingly from beyond the grave. The kind of words that may have cost him his life. One of Khashoggi's closest friends, Turan Kuşlakçık, telling us overnight that the Saudis not only killed him in the consulate, but in a terrible way. He describes what he was told in multiple briefings by Turkish security officials. They told me directly that Jamal Khashoggi had been killed using a barbaric method and that this was on the audio recording. Kuşlakçık says those audio tapes reveal that when Khashoggi walked into the consulate, he was given a document to sign. He refused and was then killed. Turkish forensic investigators have been combing through the grounds in recent days. Turkish sources releasing images of 15 Saudis they say travelled here to Istanbul the day the journalist went missing. According to the New York Times, among the suspects, an autopsy expert. The Times also reports several of the suspects have ties to the Saudi crown prince, like this man, Mahar Abdulaziz Mutreb, seen here in Boston within a few feet of the crown prince earlier this year. Another photo of the men in Houston, and another traveling together in Madrid. As for Khashoggi's closest friend, he says he's in shock. Jamal did not deserve this, and no person ever deserves such a death, not even if he were the most extreme adversary.
Well, meanwhile, investigators finishing looking over the Consul General's office, taking away a vast amount of material, and we're awaiting the results of that examination. Robin?
We are. All right, Ian, thank you.
Robin, President Trump awaiting those results as well. He's meeting with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo this morning for his report on Khashoggi. He has asked for any recordings of the killing to be turned over and insists he's not giving cover to Saudi Arabia as the pressure mounts for a tough U.S. response. Our senior national correspondent Terry Moran tracking it all from the White House. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning, George. You know, this is such a nightmare scenario for President Trump. He staked his Middle East policy on closer relations with Saudi Arabia and that young crown prince. And so now he's trying to walk a fine line between preserving that relationship and standing up with American leadership against an apparent act of savage murder. With Secretary Pompeo returning overnight from his fact-finding mission, President Trump declares he'll have definitive answers by the end of the week.
We'll get down to the bottom of it. I hope that the king and the crown prince didn't know about it. That's a big factor in my eyes.
With a mounting trail of evidence leading to senior members of the Saudi royal family, the president brushed off concerns he's covering up for them and accepting their claims they knew nothing about the disappearance of Jamal Khashoggi.
I'm not giving cover at all. With that being said, Saudi Arabia has been a very important ally of ours in the Middle East.
But throughout the crisis, the president has consistently stressed Saudi money and power, the country's critical role in the region, and a big arms deal Trump negotiated.
$110 billion worth of military. Those are the biggest orders in the history of this country. Probably the history of the world.
The Saudis seem to sense their leverage. Just as Secretary Pompeo was landing in Riyadh earlier this week, Saudi Arabia transferred $100 million to the U.S. to help pay for stabilizing war-ravaged Syria. The State Department says the timing was a coincidence. President Trump says he's requested a key piece of evidence Turkish officials claim to have, those tape recordings, if they exist. Secretary Pompeo did not hear those alleged tapes, but said the Saudis promised a transparent investigation. And when asked what Saudi officials were telling him,
I don't want to talk about any of the facts. They didn't want to either, in that they want to have the opportunity to complete this investigation in a thorough way.
And now there's growing pressure from Capitol Hill to impose some form of punishment if the Saudis are proven responsible, even from the president's own party.
They didn't take the bone saw in to play beer pong, okay? I think he's dead. I mean, the aliens didn't abduct him. I think he's dead. Senator. And all indication is that the Saudis did it.
A final note, President Trump went so far in defending that young crown prince seeming to compare him to Justice Brett Kavanaugh, saying, quote, "Here you go again with your innocent until proven guilty." He added, "I don't like that." George?
But the evidence is mounting. Okay, Terry, thanks very much. Michael?
All right, thank you, George. Now to the investigation that is underway into that midair scare for the First Lady. Smoke and a burning smell filling the plane's cabin, forcing the pilots to turn around minutes after takeoff. ABC's David Curley is at Reagan National Airport with the details. Good morning to you, David.
Good morning, Michael. The First Lady, staff, and some reporters had just taken off when Secret Service agents started moving to the front of the aircraft, and reporters were told to put wet towels over their nose and mouths if the smoke got too bad. This morning, we now know what caused the First Lady's jet to quickly return to Andrews Air Force Base.
We're having submissions up here. I'd like to turn around and go back to Andrews. You can coordinate that horse.
The issue was smoke in the cabin, a smell of something burning. If you listen closely, you can hear that the pilots of Mrs. Trump's jet have their oxygen masks on.
Do you require any special assistance? No assistance required at this time, thanks.
Turns out, on the converted 757 jet called Bright Star, some communications equipment was overheating, causing that smoke. The crew shut off the gear and the smoke cleared, and they took off their masks.
We've got the situation all cleared up now, but we still want to go back to Andrews.
The Air Force has a fleet of 4 of these jets to fly government officials. The average age of the jets, 18 years. Once this one was on the ground, the First Lady called the president before she boarded another, smaller jet.
I said, I hope this plane's better than the first one. But yeah, they had a problem. Yeah, they had a problem, but she's fine.
And on the ground in Philadelphia, Melania Trump made only a passing reference to the smoky cabin.
I'm sorry for a little delay.
Now, these 757s fly government officials, including the vice president and occasionally the president, when Air Force One is too big for an airport that he's visiting. Michael?
All right, thank you, David. Robin?
Okay, Michael, now to new information on the disappearance of that 13-year-old Wisconsin girl, Jamie Kloss. Police now confirm her parents were shot to death, and they believe Jamie was home when it happened. ABC's Alex Perez has new details.
This morning, authorities revealing new details about the night 13-year-old Jamie Kloss vanished. Investigators believe she was home when her parents were killed.
Were her parents shot to death?
Yes. Her parents died from gunshot wounds. That's why we were ruling this a homicide. There was no gun found on the scene.
Police say they arrived at the family's home just 4 minutes after a suspicious call was made to 911 around 1 a.m. Monday, but the girl was nowhere to be found. Police say no one spoke to the dispatcher, but the commotion they heard on the call leads them to believe Jamie was home at the time of the call and that wherever she is right now, she's in danger.
No one was on there asking for anything except we heard background noise, and that's what these experts are working on, that 911 call to break it down.
Since her mysterious disappearance, police canines and forensic experts have been combing the scene for clues. More than 200 investigators now working the case around the clock, chasing down some 400 tips from across the country.
I just want to bring Jamie home. That's what I want.
Authorities say they are reviewing surveillance camera from across the area, looking for any clues. Jamie was last seen on Sunday at a family gathering. Robin?
So curious. All right, Alex, thank you.
Hey, Robin, we have a new warning now about those mysterious explosions that rocked a Pennsylvania town last spring. Authorities now say there could be more homemade bombs prepared to explode. ABC's Whit Johnson is in Bucks County with the latest. Good morning, Whit.
George, good morning to you. Authorities want to avoid an accidental tragedy here. The fear is that anyone, someone going for a jog, a child, a pet, could trigger one of these undetonated bombs. Now, these mystery explosions have been haunting this community for months, and despite developments in the case, the threat might not be over yet.
This morning, a new explosive threat rattling nerves in this community north of Philadelphia. Authorities warning that live homemade bombs like this one could be scattered throughout the area.
The possibility became real that there may be unexploded devices out there.
It's the latest twist in a months-long investigation into a series of mysterious blasts in sleepy Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Last spring, an all-out hunt to find the source behind about 30 mysterious explosions, some leaving behind large craters. In June, police arrested 31-year-old David Sermon Jr. Then on Friday, police taking his longtime girlfriend, Tina Mae Smith, into custody. Officials say the pair would drive around neighborhoods, tossing the bombs out of car windows. Police now worried more undetonated ones may still exist.
I absolutely think there's others out there.
The echoing booms awakening residents in the middle of the night, but never causing any injuries.
We kept hearing it go off and off and off, and we never knew what it was.
Authorities say while searching Sermon's home and chemical business, they found several bombs, a cache of guns, and drug paraphernalia. Some of the explosives with almost cartoonish-like features. This one shaped like a wrecking ball with a long wick. Others made out of bottles, labeled with a frowning face. Local officials now teaming up with the FBI and ATF, hoping to track down any remaining devices.
We don't want somebody to unintentionally come across one of these devices and pick it up.
Now, Sermon and Smith are both facing a long list of charges relating to the explosion. Sermon is also now facing child pornography charges following a search of his property and personal computer. Still, the couple was able to make bail and get out from behind bars while they await trial. George?
Okay, Whit, thanks very much. Michael?
All right, George. Now, a reason to keep your lottery hopes alive. There's no major Powerball winner last night, which means that jackpot has now soared to $430 million. You combine that with the Mega Millions, which no one won the other day, and you've got more than $1.3 billion that are up for grabs. You're smiling. Somebody's buying a ticket. The next Mega Millions drawing is tomorrow, and the Powerball is Saturday. And never too late. Can't win if you don't play.
That's right. It's just absurd the amount of money.
1.3.
Okay, but this is not exactly a priceless moment if you're an Astros fan as I stare at you.
All right. This morning.
Some worry this could cost the Stros a trip to the World Series. Fans reaching for the ball. A possible home run ruined. Gio Benitez is here with that story. Good morning, Gio.
Hey, Robin, good morning. Yeah, this is sparking some nationwide outrage right now, but the fan is now speaking out, saying he did nothing wrong. So many this morning playing back that tape in slow motion. This morning, controversy surrounding the play during the Astros-Red Sox ALCS matchup, leaving some wondering, was Boston given an unfair advantage? In the first inning, Jose Altuve hit what looked to be a two-run home run over the wall in right field. As the ball landed, umpires ruling that the fan prevented Red Sox outfielder Mookie Betts from making a play on the ball. But the question remained, did the fan interfere?
Did they reach over that yellow line into the field to play, or is Mookie over the field to play?
The MLB says this about fan interference: when a fan clearly prevents a fielder from catching a fly ball, the umpire shall declare the batter out.
He gets stopped from catching it from the hand of the fan.
The ruling taking 2 key runs off the scoreboard for the Astros.
Reached my hand up. I felt like somebody was kind of pushing my glove, out of the way or something, and I got to see a little bit of the replay. I guess he got the call right.
There's no mechanism for me to change their mind, change their interpretation, change the fact that I thought the ball was a row or two into the stands. It doesn't matter what I think.
The Red Sox went on to win 8-6, the final score taking a 3-1 lead in the best-of-7 series. This isn't the first time an action by a fan has changed the outcome of a conference series game. In 2003 at Wrigley Field, Steve Bartman was launched into infamy when he reached for this ball during the Cubs-Marlins playoff game. His reach disrupted a potential catch by the Cubs. The Marlins wound up winning the game and the series. When the Cubs finally broke their World Series curse in 2016, Bartman received a World Series ring. It's not known yet if such a ring is in the future for Troy Caldwell, the fan many are now blaming for the interference call. Caldwell maintains he didn't cross the home run line. He was mobbed as he left the stadium. There's nothing to talk about. Yeah, and listen, and when word got out that Caldwell was worried that he'd need a security escort after the game, a local barbecue spot in Houston tweeted during the game that he was just being a fan and told people around him at the game to buy him a beer, and they offered him some free barbecue.
Yeah, they'd get a whole mob down at the barbecue joint.
Yeah, right.
You say they had an ulterior motive for offering that?
Oh, boy. All right. Thank you, Gio. And now to Rob with flooding in Texas, Rob, and more rain that is on the way.
That's right, Michael. And this is far west of Houston, although there are some high water areas that are going to get to Houston. This is northwest of Austin, and where the Llano River combines with the Colorado River. You see this woman being swiftwater rescued. Also, yesterday we showed you a bridge that was broken down by this flooding. Look at this. Part of that bridge almost breaching like a whale and then slapping down as this high water continues downstream. And one more drone shot. This is the Colorado River, the Buchanan Dam there. Look how high this is running. They've got 8 of the 30 gates now releasing some of those floodwaters, and we've got more in the way of rain in the next 24 to 36 hours. Time now for your Chili Cities, brought to you by Capital One.
With the Capital One Venture Card, you'll earn unlimited double miles on every purchase every day, not just airline purchases. Think about all the double miles you could be earning.
Holy moly, that's a lot of miles!
Shh.
What's in your wallet?
A very warm jacket will be needed today. Your coldest temperatures in 6 months, feeling like November out there today. 52 degrees at lunchtime today, 54 by 3 o'clock. At least we'll have sunshine. We're tracking some rain for Saturday, the high 62 degrees. Sunday's high just 54, quite chilly and breezy. But the big story is just how cold it's going to be tomorrow morning. Starting out in the 30s, probably some frost out there. So make sure you bring in those plants and make sure you make plans too for the upcoming fall weekend.
Coming up, new trouble for that reality show doctor and his girlfriend accused of drugging and sexually assaulting multiple women. What they're saying about those charges.
And an urgent search now for a missing pregnant postal worker. Police released this surveillance video showing her hours before she vanished.
seem pretty simple, right?